we have a young lady who was up against so many horrible things. The odds were stacked against her. And she graduated this year in the same week from Odessa College, Odessa High School, and got her phlebotomy certificate. And she was just so driven to become something she could be proud of because it was difficult for her to feel like people were proud of her. And so we have all rallied around her, and she will not tell you that she doesn't have a person proud of her because we smother her. And it's just great. She's in one of our apartments out there and doing so well. And she got hired on full time at the hospital. So a lot of great things come out of our program.
Hi, welcome to the Good Work West Texas podcast. Today, we're so excited to interview and talk to Tina and Stephanie. They're with Basin Dream Center. And Leslie Crisp is a co host of ours. And so we're just excited about the conversations that we're going to have, learning about Basin Dream Center, learning about their stories and the impact that they've made in this community. So let's get started.
Uh-huh.
Tina, thank you so much for being here, and Stephanie as well.
Absolutely.
And we are just excited to learn about what you guys do, kind of how you got started. And so I'm going to leave the floor to you, but
Okay.
just tell us a little bit about what year you got started, a little bit about the organization itself,
Sure.
and just share.
Yeah. So I started Basin Dream Center just really based off my personal history as a child and then a young adult, and the hurdles that I had to overcome in my own life, and just recognizing what my community did for me, looking back and how it really impacted me. And I just wanted to be able to help kids be successful in ways that I wasn't able to have those same opportunities and resources. So I started off really fostering. Whenever I met my husband, I told him when we were dating, I'm going to foster kids. I'm going to take care of kids, besides our own. And so once our kids got to an appropriate age to where we could start taking kids in our home, we did. And it was just super empowering for me, as a survivor of, childhood, abuses. I endured a lot of those. And so it expedited my healing in so many ways. And so just being able to care for those kids, we started in foster care. Once my children grew up and went on to college, got married, moved out of the house, we didn't want to stop helping young adults and youth. And so we, kind of are pioneers at Hart. We pioneered our first church and went into ministry. So to us, it wasn't scary to charter those territories. And so we decided to write a 501(c)(3), and we wanted to help those kids who would exit foster care without families.
Okay.
And so that's really how the Basin Dream Center started as a nonprofit, and we've just grown from there.
That's awesome. That's so great. Thank you for saying yes. I think, as you meet different people who have experienced difficult seasons, they either get stuck or they realize that there's just a need to move from there and to actually help other people. And I love that you've said, I'm sure that I can't imagine what was a part of that whole healing journey, but I do love just the piece where you talked about, there's healing that happens when you
Mhm.
begin to help other people
Right.
and you see their lives restored. And
Mhm.
so thank you for saying yes to that.
Yeah, of
It's a big
course.
deal. So
Mhm.
so how long have you guys been going? When did that
Yeah.
officially?
You did ask me that as part of
No,
the
it's
first
okay. It's
question, but
okay.
yes,
No.
so we started in 2017 is when we
Okay.
we received our IRS status. It was December of 2017, so we don't really count that year.
Yes.
In 2018, we really just kind of built our programs. We visited other organizations, like what we wanted to become, and met some great leaders in that field. And they gave us so many tools to begin to start. So we developed our board. We developed, what that would look like, what our programs would look like when we took in a young adult. And so 2018 was a big year of just kind of building. what it would look like, our foundation. And also during that time, I had some foster youth that we were, trying to we wanted to see them through in whatever status their cases were in. So we didn't want to end fostering abruptly and start a nonprofit. So we wanted to make sure we took care of the kids in our home. But it was around the 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who would you say just have has been really impactful just in this journey of not just healing, but just guidance
Mhm.
through the process
Yeah.
of really serving and being willing to give back in this way? Was there someone in particular that you think of that?
So people ask me that question often, and think it's really three things that impacted my life. And I say things because one of them really is my community when I grew up. You
Mhm.
know, I was a church bus kid. The church sent a bus to my neighborhood and I just got on it. And the people in the church that they took me to, got down on a knee at my level and checked on me. And we started receiving groceries on our doorstep. Our camps were paid for. We had school supplies. Things just happened. My mom was able to receive counseling for free. So the community it was a huge impact, but also I started counseling at one point in my life because I realized that um, there were things that I was holding on to that were impacting my relationships in my life. And so my counselor sat down with me one day and she just said, what are you passionate about? Do you have any aspirations or dreams that you've always wanted to do? And became kind of a slogan for me because now I ask my residents, what is your passion and what is your dream? We're going to make sure that you can do that. So my counselor was huge. I was living in survival mode and I wanted to really kind of peel that apart and see what that meant. And for me, what it meant was I received enough courage to actually go on a trip to Africa. And that was very much outside of my box because in survival mode, you need to know what's going to happen next and what things look like. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I worked with a group, it was the Kogala Project in Africa. And they rescued girls out of brothels and they put them into vocational skills so that they could take care of themselves. And when I stepped onto that territory, the love I received from people who had been through trauma made me feel seen and not alone. And so my counselor, that was a long story, but my counselor was super impactful. And then I had a friend that really kind of pushed me outside of my box to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is very hard for trauma victims. And so um, those are the most impactful people in my community as
I
well.
love
So.
it. I love the story that it's the weaving of all those experiences, and even from the bus driver that went every week. Um Yeah, it's just yeah, you just think of the people that every Sunday would come and pick you up
Mhm.
and invest in you and then
Right.
saw to your needs and then allow you to have other experiences.
Mhm.
I love that. And I think it speaks to the whole community, not only for your story, but in some of the things that we're trying to do with just amplifying the good work that's happening here.
Mhm.
It takes all of us seeing where we are and having the margin in our lives to actually help others and to know that we can do something to help others. And it
Right.
looks different for each of us, but I love the story of just the weaving of
Yeah.
that. And so thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Um, Stephanie, you've been with Basin Dream Center for how long?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, okay. And in your role, tell us a little bit about what you do there and what was your story behind of how you even joined on to Tina and her group and invested in that ministry?
Sure. So Tina and I really have done a lot together.
we're the front lines that go in and interview these kids and really determine where they're at and meet them where they're at. And so I get the joys of working in the office, but also direct care
Okay.
with these kids and get to see through every single hard day, every single good day, every single celebration, things like that. And as the chief program officer, decide what's working and what isn't. And so we can implement things that we see success stories coming out of and really get rid of the things that aren't creating success stories.
Mhm.
So I love being an integral part of that whole creation. And we've just grown since exponentially since I've been here. So we're a powerhouse together. I'd like to add a little bit about Stephanie.
Yeah.
She's very important. One of the things that I loved about her experience is she has a um, degree in criminal justice, and our kids, they get into some trouble, survival. Um, Things will create them to maybe break the law. Maybe they need to eat and they steal food or things like that. I have no background in any of that. And so she can advocate really hard for our kids, and she knows the justice system so great. And it opened a door for us to be able to take in kids from the juvenile justice department. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without, that aspect and adding Stephanie to our team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit about how I got to that in the criminal justice side is I grew up with a drug addict, alcoholic dad. And so I had a lot of abandonment issues, and it ended up causing me to be a sexual assault survivor when I'm looking for love in on all the wrong places and things like that. And I really felt like it was in my genes. I was supposed to be a drug addict, alcoholic as well. Everybody was telling me that. So I just thought, okay, well, this is my destiny. This is what I'm going to do. So I was out breaking the law and getting drunk and doing those things and getting taken advantage of because of that. But I also had a great mother and a minister for a stepdad
Mm.
who came into my life years later and became a daddy's girl with him. So I kind of got to see the best of both worlds of this is what brokenness looks like, but also this is what healing looks like. And so I decided I'm not going to be like my dad. And I did get pregnant and decided to change my life around for my son and raised him. And when he was 16, he decided he wanted to go into the military. So I decided at that point I was going to follow my dream of being in law enforcement. And so I went after it and became a pretrial officer working with hard felony GPS cases. And it's so thrilling to put bad people behind bars. So it's a high that you get. But then there are the kids who are out there who are breaking the law for survival, and they have theft charges or they were being trafficked or things like that. So I just couldn't handle putting them behind bars. And I really dove in with the sheriff's office on the crisis intervention unit. And so we assist law enforcement a lot of times when a woman and her child are being abused at home or things like that, and they rescue them, we come get them.
Okay.
Or we go sit with them during SANE exams at the hospital, things like that. So I just really decided law enforcement wasn't the way to go because I wanted to be on the prevention side of what can we do to stop these kids from going to jail to begin with, giving them the resources to keep them sustainable and
Mhm.
productive citizens. So I really started working directly with human trafficking survivors first. And I'm a boy mom. So I learned a lot through my years of doing that and getting my criminal justice degree, but I didn't want to limit myself. The young boys out there who are being trafficked or are homeless for many different reasons, I wanted to really step in and help those kids too. So just leaned a lot on God and prayer and asked Him to guide me, and literally heard Him speak to me one day and say, "It's time. I'm shifting your life." And I'm like, "Yeah, but God, I'm about to get divorced and I need this job and I can't. It's not time." And I heard Him say, "It's time." So I walked away with peace. And that night came a phone call with a mutual connection of ours who said, "Hey, I have the perfect place that you can go that I want to introduce you to. And she didn't even know I'd quit my job
Wow.
yet. So that's when Tina and I met, and she helped me through my divorce, but also we just intertwined like an imaginable connection to help these kids. Our passion was the same.
Oh,
Our trauma was very similar. And so
I love
we just
that.
became a
Oh,
powerhouse.
So I've heard you both say multiple times the kids, the kids. Are we truly talking about kids? Are we talking 8, 9-year old
That's a
kids?
great question.
Are we talking about, I mean, my son just turned 21 on Saturday and I still say my baby, my kid. I mean, so kid could mean a lot of things. But for our audience and really even for
Sure.
me, I know there's been some changes with you guys in your organization and maybe your dreams and aspirations of where you're headed. But are we talking kids? Are we talking juveniles who have aged out of the system? Can you help shed some light on what that
Sure.
looks like?
That's a great
That group that we're referencing here. I'm curious to know.
So we call them kids because they are younger than our biological kids, and we're getting to an age where everyone are they're all kids at
Yeah.
certain. So I that's a great question to clarify. We serve young adults that are 17 to 26 years old. We are not wanting to get involved in adolescents younger than that for many reasons, and we don't have time to go into that. But there is a lot of statistics out there that 17 to 26 years old is a very vulnerable age, that if they don't receive services, resources, opportunities, they will end up incarcerated or pregnant or in abusive situations. So we really want to cover that population well. Mhm.
yeah. So tell us a little bit, because so much has happened with change in the organization as far as growth in the last year.
Mhm.
And so tell us a little bit about that journey of where you guys are as far as that goes with fundraising and where you are.
Yeah. Um, it's been quite a roller coaster and a lot of positivity. I mean, we're super excited about everything. Sometimes we jump into things and we think it should look a certain way and go a certain way. When in reality, you're talking about a whole new property that we don't know. So there has been some changes that we hadn't thought of, but it's a good thing. Um, we had two homes here in town in Midland that we used as transitional homes for young men and young women. We outgrew them. We also outgrew the idea of it being located in a residential area. Our kids have traumas that they just sometimes need to go outside and scream, and that doesn't work well in a residential area. So we're very blessed to have acquired the property out on Briarwood, which is located right next to the bus barn. And our kids have the freedom just to have space to overcome some things. And so we closed on that property in December, and we moved our offices out there on March 1st and the kids, our residents, on April 1st. And it took us a little bit of time to get security things in place, to create office spaces and things like that. And just getting out there and getting used to the property and utilizing every space that we have and doing it well is what we've been doing. We have some very generous donors that enabled us to have the property debt free. So we're so grateful. We are raising money right now just to improve the property. One of the things that we wanted to do when we moved out there was to start a shelter, an emergency shelter, which our city and area, the whole Permian Basin does not have one. And so all the cities across the state do. And that really looks like any youth or young adult that's on the street could come and stay one night a week, however many nights in the shelter that they needed, up to, I guess I shouldn't say however many. We want to try to within a couple months, 30 to 60 days, be moving them through the transitional program. But this would allow them to come and stay, have a shower, have meals, have a comfortable bed, wash their clothes, and keep them out of the population of maybe adult shelters because there's some dangers there. So that's what our future is to be able to fundraise for that. We thought it would come a lot sooner, but there's some things going on in the economy with the federal funding and things like that. And so we have to be patient. We have to pivot a little bit, and we're okay with that. But we are going to start a small shelter so that we can separate the populations because different behaviors can sometimes lead the youth that are really on a good track when there's some influence there from someone who might need just a little more time to stabilize. And so we're excited about the growth coming and fundraising for what we need for the shelter and just being able to be happy with the outcome and the timing of
Mhm.
that. So,
Mm, yeah.
So at the new
mhm,
location, you said you outgrew the two houses
mhm,
in the residential area. So how many beds?
yeah,
Is that how you would calculate the space
sure.
you have? Like how many beds
Yeah,
do you have for
yeah.
your young adult kid women and your young adult kid males? What is
Yeah.
that? What has this growth allowed you to expand
Mhm.
on space?
The growth has given us a lot of different opportunities. Separating populations is what we've talked about. Also, giving the space, but also increasing our staff. We have, moving on to this property, we now have staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now it opens the door for more significant behaviors. And also to kind of spread out a little bit, we have 23 beds that we are going to fill before we start the big shelter. And we had about 16 beds at the last uh the houses we had before, but we couldn't always fill them because of staffing, because of behaviors, because of suicidal ideations, because of triggering their roommates and not being able to separate. There was just a lot of things that we were kind of restricted to. So having this property, having 23 beds, having the space to grow and to we our plan is to put tiny homes out there so that we can really create independence for some of our kiddos that are just achieving so much more than we even thought they could. And I'd love to eventually be able to share some of those stories with you. But bed count sometimes we just look at it as how many kids are we stabilizing? How many kids are we um, reconnecting with family members who are safe? How many are we just grabbing off the street to see what resources we can give them? Um, Last year we helped 38 kids total. This year, 6 months in, we've already helped 30 kids on our new property. So I think we'll double what we did next year. And as we grow, we're going to keep on doubling and
Mhm.
tripling. So,
That's awesome. I
So when
love it.
you think about kids, how do they know about you? It's my understanding, I think you guys are in the schools, or have at least good communication with schools. But how does someone find out about you to know,
mhm,
okay, do I qualify to come in here? What does that look like?
yeah,
What other agencies do you work with to
sure.
make sure you know?
I'm going to let Stephanie answer that, but also before I have her answer that, I want to empower everyone who's watching because we do work with agencies who for referrals, but we get so many calls from just regular people, community members that say, my daughter brought this young lady home and she has a toxic family situation or have been kicked out or there's whatever the story might be, and they've offered up their couch and they just don't know what the end of that looks like or what to do. And so that can happen to any one of us. So just tell everybody about us because those situations happen often. And sometimes it comes to where they've burnt that bridge and they end up on the street, and we'd love to intervene before that could ever happen. But Stephanie will tell you about all of our partnerships.
So I would say communities and schools is a big one for us, and Salvation Army. We work very closely with both of those. Elsa at Salvation Army will call me and say, I have a 19-year-old and they don't belong here. So we go straight to the Salvation Army and interview them. Communities and schools does the same thing. DFPS does that with us as well. We have a kid aging out, and so we're ready to find a home for them. But I would say social media is a big one. Word of mouth. We get applications from kids like, hey, this past resident contacted us and said this is the place to go. So even the kids that have graduated our program or have found stable living are spreading the word. So I love hearing that it's coming from our own people.
Mhm.
I would kind of like to piggyback on the kid thing because when you look at trauma informed care, these kids may come in at 18, 19, 20 years old, 22 even, but their age stops when their trauma started. So, something I love about Basin Dream Center is that we allow them to be a kid and just do those things. We went to Six Flags last year and none of them had ever been before. And that's what we heard the most. I love that I get to be a kid here. So, we're reinventing their childhood with them. We're planning to go to the Abilene Zoo soon just to see the animals. And at first, I was a little shy about mentioning it. Like, are these kids going to think I'm stupid because I want to go to the zoo? But I'm 41 years old and I still love to go. And I got tears in their reactions of, I've never gotten to go and I've always wanted to. So I love that. And that's why we call them kids. We look at them like our own and we make this a family style atmosphere. It's not an RTC or a facility or a hospital or anything like that. So uh, they end up looking at us like their
So,
family.
yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. But we do have many partnerships. The hospitals, we've been in Midland Memorial and at MCH in Odessa and Permia Care centers. We're getting referrals from all over Midland and even other nonprofits that maybe don't have anything to do with homeless youth, but they'll hear about it and they'll send them our way.
I love that because it just speaks to the community that we have
Yes.
that when we can support each other and just provide services and depend on each other to be able to do that and refer and it just makes the whole ecosystem,
Yes.
just work because I think that just that relational aspect of seeing the strengths of each different organization that serves the purpose. And I love that about our region that we talk, Leslie and I get to talk a lot about how our region is so generous, not just financially, but we hope to inspire people to take a step to get involved as well with volunteers and things like that. What does that look like for you guys? And I know with sensitive nature of maybe the kids that are there with you, how much can you utilize volunteers? What does that look like if somebody wants to help out? What could that be that look like for them?
Yeah, so we love volunteers. We have so many great relationship with volunteers, and there's so many in our community that are passionate about helping youth and young adults. And so what that looks like is, having the opportunity to have 17 to 26, they aren't really kids. And so we don't have a lot of hoops to jump through, although we want to protect our residents. So we do background checks on everybody. We really um are careful with who we allow, but we want them to have it's a life skill to be able to have volunteers out and have good communication, interactions with them. So we love to have them out for family night meals to help them. It's just to either even sit with them and have meals as maybe uh kind of a father figure, mother figure, auntie, uncle, any of those things. They engage with them so well, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch happen. So we love to have them out doing those types of things. But we also on the new property have a swimming pool. We have basketball courts. So just to be active with the kids and walls come down during those times. So activities and things like that. But also there's a lot of this property comes with 14 acres and a beautiful big home and other buildings and apartments out there. So just the upkeep or planting flowers or mowing the lawn, picking up trash. There's always a project to be done. And another thing that we have done is this year will be our first annual big fundraising event. And so that's a little bit scary for us to be starting. So we started a committee, so there's a lot of great people in our community that have experience with decor or maybe finding companies who would donate an item to be auctioned, or, setting up the tables, or they might have, connections. And so we're always looking for volunteers to be part of that committee. Um, but really just engagement, with any of our kids, our young adults we love it when that happens.
One thing I heard, when at a time when Courtney and I were talking through some different logistics, and she said that y'all have where people can bring a birthday cake and
Yes.
birthday decorations, like almost a birthday in a box. And even though you might not be interacting
Yes.
with a resident, this always makes me emotional when I talk about this. But just like what that means to some of these kids, young adults that haven't had that. They haven't had a a birthday cake or a party, if you will, to celebrate them. And I loved that because that's something simple in the big scheme of things. Like, I'm not going to come mow 14 acres. I mean, I will if y'all need me to, but someone who's like, I don't have time to mow 14 acres, but I can get a birthday cake and birthday decorations and get those delivered to you guys. I just loved that that was something that felt so happy and celebratory for someone that could really seem insignificant in the big scheme of things, but really has such a huge impact. So that was one of the things that a volunteer could do that I loved to hear that you guys
Yes.
did.
Yeah, so like who doesn't love food, right?
Right.
And so tonight's actually that night. It's birthday night,
Mm.
and we have a young man who in 18 years hasn't been reunited with his family, and since he came to us, he has been, but he didn't get to celebrate his 18th birthday because he was being transported to us to be dropped off. And so we're having a birthday party for him tonight. He came in and graduated, but we have a volunteer that's cooking chili verde and teaching them how to do it. And they're so excited. And I was like, hey, but there's going to be like 18 of us there. So I understand if you don't want to. And she said, are you kidding me? The more people I can cook for, the better. And so they're learning a life skill, how to make it, and having somebody from the outside make them feel special. And so yeah, if you wanna donate a birthday cake, today's the day.
Yeah.
But,
They're gonna think
we're
we
gonna make
planned
it
this.
big.
We didn't plan this. I didn't know. That's awesome.
But a lot of tears come when we celebrate birthdays. They
Mhm.
feel special, and
Mhm.
that's what it's all about, and it's really sad that they haven't gotten to do that yet, but
And graduation parties. We had
Yeah.
4 graduate this year.
yes.
We're so excited
Exciting.
about that. So, and when our children graduate, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And so to make it a big thing for these 4 graduates is important to us, and it we need the community, to help us to pull that off.
To be a part of that.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell us, obviously there's challenges on the day to day.
Mhm.
Both of you guys are leaders in your space. What are the things that you wake up every day that through the struggles, that what keeps you going? Um, because there is joy.
Mhm.
We have lots of opportunity for joy, but I can assume that just hearing the stories of children and walking with them and helping meet their needs, that it can be tough. I'm sure there's lots of tough days.
Yeah.
So as a leader, where do you find that encouragement? And is there a principle or something in your life that you feel like um, keeps you grounded?
Yeah. It's probably gonna be different for Stephanie, but for me, I feel like what keeps me going really is the resilience of these kids and the ability to empower them and watch those lights turn on and the achievements that they are able to accomplish. I mean, why wouldn't I want to get up out of bed and go and see that and be part of that? It's super special. Really kind of just leaning on a statement that I tell myself is everything is figure outable. Like we can figure it out. If we have a challenge, we don't have to do anything alone, and because we do belong to such a great community. But even with the kids, we've become trauma informed as an organization and employees all throughout, and just learning that we can figure this out. There's no need to stress about it or to get anxious. We have a good, solid team of people that support us. So I'd like to hear Stephanie answer that as well.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna try not to cry. Um,
You can cry. I'll cry with you. You'll never cry alone if you're with me.
I would say my answer is the same as hers. It's the wins. I mean, when we're having bad days, I come from crisis. I have seen way too many suicides and murders in my days, as I'm sure you have with your husband's line of work, but also just having the wins of the good days and seeing them get through that. Personal story is I was diagnosed with cancer while I was working here. Super young, wasn't even 40 yet. And these kids made me show up every day. Just they didn't ask me to. They got on to me for showing up, but I couldn't help it. If I got out of surgery, I'm like calling and checking on them. If I got out of chemo, they were cooking dinner for me. And I'm like, I did that. I helped with that. I helped teach them that. And Tina too, we just have encouraged them and built them up into these amazing human beings that when they didn't even know I needed them, they turned around and showed up for me. And so um, I didn't have to miss work because
Yeah.
I couldn't help but be entangled in their day every single day, regardless of what was going on in my life. And so on the hard days when they don't want to get out of bed, I would sit there with my little bald head and looking sick and tell them, I'm here for you, not here for me. And so it really inspired them to get up out of bed and make the best of their day. So I would say those wins are what keep me going
Mhm.
every day.
Immediate return on your investment is
Yeah,
what you got to experience there.
That's right.
I watched something last night that my daughter sent me on Instagram, and it was Tim Tebow, and he was talking, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but he was talking about how the they've been able to target all of these like IP addresses of all these kids that are being watched and all this horrible stuff. And it was some astronomical number, like 150,000 that are known right now that they know. And that number's probably wrong. Don't be mad, Tim. But he said, can we save 150,000 or whatever the number was that he used? He said no, maybe not, maybe yes, but we can do it for one. And it was just, and he was like, and even if we only saved one, we still saved one. And there was something just so impactful about that and the reminder of that these are lives.
Yeah.
These are, we're not saving couches or, items. These are humans. And if you can do it and save one. And so I applaud you, ladies, for what you do because I know that there are hard stories. I know there are the ones that you have probably looked at square in their eyes and seen the utmost potential, and they still walk away and still return to a lifestyle that deeply entangles them. But I just applaud you ladies for fighting so hard for even the one.
Well, and I'm going to say this about Tina. If Tina was that one, and look what she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to
Absolutely.
talk about the success.
Yes.
Can we do that real
Yes,
fast? Because,
absolutely.
we've been talking about the residents and the kids, but you have to
Yes.
know how great they are. Um, we've had 4 graduate this year. We have kids that graduate every year, and some of them, when they come, they're not willing to go back to school. And to watch them come from a point where, they don't think they can to where they actually do. But they're brilliant kids. Some people think that, these kids are troublemakers, that they won't amount to anything, but it's the complete opposite. And a couple of stories I just really want to share real fast is we have a couple of boys this year who are seeking the military, and we've had that in the past as well, but this is on the forefront of my mind because these 2 boys are here and now in front of me.
Right.
But you would think that they feel like it's the only option there is for them, or that that's just what I have to do because I don't have a home. That's not the case with these
Mm.
boys. They feel that the military is a very honorable position for them, and they want to be that honorable person to serve our country. And not only that, we have one young man who has a baby on the way, and he's fulfilled all the parenting classes we put in front of him, and he has done so well with that. But he wants to go into the military so that he can provide long term for his family, and his kids will never have to experience what he has. And then the last story, I know for time's sake, I could tell you a lot, but we have a young lady who was up against so many horrible things. The odds were stacked against her. And she graduated this year in the same week from Odessa College, Odessa High School, and got her phlebotomy certificate. And she was just so driven to become something she could be proud of because it was difficult for her to feel like people were proud of her. And so we have all rallied around her, and she will not tell you that she doesn't have a person proud of her because we smother her. And it's just great. She's in one of our apartments out there and doing so well. And she got hired on full time at the hospital. So a lot of great things come out of our program.
Thank you so much, because I think we do. You know, the community not knowing, you think that obviously they're troubled because of home life and
Mhm.
history, but to see that they have value, they have
They
stories, they
do.
have places um, that they have a story ahead.
Mhm.
They have a future.
Mhm.
And thank you so much. And I just agree with Leslie. Just applaud you both for being a part of their stories and digging in. And thank you for empowering the community to not only see just a little bit of your story and the
Mhm.
things that are going on with you guys, but we hope that if there's people in our community that want to donate, if there's people in our community that want to volunteer or they know someone, we just hope that getting this information out there about the good work that's happening in our community, that people will feel inspired and they will find that connection of where they want to serve or where they want to give to. And so I just thank you for sharing your story, and it's our hope that more people know about what you're doing and that more people are willing to give a piece of their hearts and money and time
Mhm.
to make an impact with your organization. So we have one little surprise that I'm going to tell you. It's not difficult, but we have one more thing that we want you guys to do.
Uh-huh.
We have put together I love quotes. So we've put together a lot of quotes. I don't really know what's going to come out of here, but you're going to choose and
The
then
crinkles.
just read it for us and then talk to us about what it means to you.
Oh boy, this is I don't
This
know.
isn't on the spot.
It
The
is,
hot
and I'm a
heat.
survivor. I always need to know what's ahead. So
I-
anyway, that's
If you don't
okay.
like it, draw
No,
again.
You're
There's
in a
no
safe
rules here.
space.
this is where I grow, and I love growth opportunities. So I'm going to go with it. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
what you got?
All right. Ask yourself this question: will this matter a year from now? Absolutely. I have worked hard for Basin Dream Center to be around 100 years plus. We will become sustainable enough for that to happen. And every year we will have so much growth and we will help so many more kids.
I love to see you did so
You
good.
did. And I love that you did a positive spin on that because when I read that,
Hmm.
I always take a negative. Like I always ask myself in that space of like what's happening in my life that's chaotic or negative, and will this matter a year from now? Like waging on should I stress or worry about this? I
Hmm.
love that you saw that from a different
Yeah.
lens of yes, it is going to matter a year from now because I'm going 100 years from
We
here.
are.
I love that,
We are.
Tina. Love it.
Yeah. All right. So mine is you can't talk butterfly language with caterpillar people. I can't even say it.
I'm so glad I didn't get
Yes,
that.
one more time. You can't talk.
Butterfly language with caterpillar people.
Ooh.
So, I mean, we're in it. We're living that
Mhm.
right now because how this really happened is Tina had a vision. And she sat with me one day and said, "How do you feel about this?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I feel the same. Like, let's get pen and paper and write it down what it looks like." And that's where the shelter talk even began. It's just a thought in her head that got turned around. And Is it scary? Most definitely. Did we know what we're doing? Probably not. But we're learning, figuring it out, and you're going to see the beautiful butterfly wings pop out of both of us when we're done with all of
And
it.
all of our residents.
Yes.
That's right.
And
That's
they
right.
are. They're a beautiful montage of colors and
Mhm.
all that that they didn't even know they had.
I love it.
So,
Thank you so much for sharing your stories and just about Basin Dream Center. It is our honor every time we get to sit across from someone and um, talk about what they're doing and hear their stories. It it just makes our day, and I hope that it truly just inspires other people to be a part of what you guys are doing. So thank you for being willing to say yes to the podcast
Yes,
and
thank
to
you.
our questions. And so thanks
Thank
so
you for
much.
having us. The
yeah.
exposure is everything from a fundraising aspect, but also most importantly for kids to be able to reach
Yeah.
us.
I love it.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
for your support. I mean, we couldn't do it without people supporting us. So it means the world that you guys felt enough about this to have us out.
Well, thank you so much.